The Paulding County Board of Commissioners Work Session to order on February the 11th, 2020. We're delighted to have Pastor Gene Morehouse from Westside Christian Church to bring us our invocation and lead us in the pledge. Please stand if you're able.
Unusual request. I want you to keep your eyes open and look at our commissioners and our attorney up there as we pray. Heavenly Father, we know the commissioners by only reputation and by what their actions. But Heavenly Father, you know their minds, their heart, you even know the number of hairs on their heads. So we ask your blessing and strength upon them. Encourage them and help them to be what you want them to be as leaders for our community, for our county, and for their families, friends, and relatives. We ask, Lord, that you help those who are first responders. We see them standing in the back. Guide them, help them, protect them, and be a part. And those who are present, may our hearts be with you, Heavenly Father. May your guidance and help guide us through each and every day. And Heavenly Father, this is just a part of the time that we get to be in conversation with you. And we thank you for that you open the doors of heaven, that we can enter in and speak to you on a one-to-one basis and also as a group. We thank you for your love, the gift of your Son, and for the salvation that we have through Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And all God's family said, Amen. Now, loyalty to country, ready, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thanks so much, Pastor Morehouse. Marshall, do we have anyone who's signed the sheet to speak? Bring that forward, please. And I'm turning my phone off right now. You might do the same if yours is still on. Thanks, sir. Well, it's great to have everyone here. Thank you for being here. The minutes of January 28th work session, also the minutes of the January 28th board meeting are available for review. Our Positively Paulding under announcements this morning is our Employee of the Month to recognize Mr. David Davis.
My name is Chris White. I work for the Paulding County Community Development Division as the senior engineer. I nominated David Davis for Employee of the Month. He is one of our senior stormwater inspectors. His job entails going out and actually doing physical inspections of various components of our stormwater system throughout the county, detention ponds, catch basins, ditches, to make sure that everything is operating smoothly, no deficiencies. From the very beginning, he showed initiative, a lot of enthusiasm, willingness to learn, and grasp the concepts of the job almost immediately. And furthermore, he took things to the next level with the way he organized the position overall. So without him, we wouldn't be where we are with our stormwater program at this point. He has far exceeded our expectations. Look forward to seeing more great work from him.
Team Paulding!
Congratulations, Mr. Davis. We do that every month, so it's a lot of fun, and I commend our County Administrator Frank Baker for starting that program. Under invited guest, we have Mr. David Haynes with the Atlanta Regional Commission, who's going to come and share with us about what's going on in ARC.
Morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. I understand Mr. Jones has provided you with some information about ARC's Comprehensive Transportation Planning Program already, sort of as background, but I'm here today to give you a little bit more of a history, some context about the program, and also to answer any questions you may have about it. So the CTP program, Comprehensive Transportation Planning Program, It's a voluntary program that we established about 15 years ago, and the idea behind it is we wanted to provide some incentive for the counties in our planning area to work jointly with the municipalities to develop joint county-city transportation plans. And that helps position you for future funding opportunities so that you have those priorities well established, whether that funding opportunity is maybe through a future SPLOST or a T-SPLOST, or perhaps you may request funding from the state, Georgia DOT, and even opportunities whenever there's a solicitation for federal funding through ARC. So it really helps figure out, what are those best possible projects to move forward. And as we know, transportation is really fundamental for successful economic development and quality of life. It really can't be understated, the importance of that. These plans help ARC tremendously also, because they really are the building blocks of the regional transportation plan that we're responsible for producing for the Atlanta region. So the program itself is funded primarily from federal sources that flow through ARC. 80% does require a 20% local match, and we establish funding levels based on the size of the county. So there are 3 different tiers, and Paulding County falls in that middle tier. So we start with a base level of $500,000 of federal funds, which requires $125,000 of local match. Now that number is negotiable. If you determine that you don't necessarily need a full update, a lower amount is certainly possible. Or if there's some particular need where you want to do a deeper dive, we also have some room possibly in the budget to increase that number. So it's fluid, but we start with 500 as sort of a starting point. So this slide, I apologize, it's a little hard to read. The colors are faded out, but ARC covers a 20-county region, and we try to do these updates at the county level on an ongoing rotating basis. So at any given time, we have about 3 to 6 of these that are active at any time. And you can see Paulding County's last plan was adopted, I believe, in April of 2015. We like to produce updates of these plans around every 5 to 7 years. So we're right at that point where having that conversation about whether the county feels it's appropriate to move forward on an update, we're at that point. So the outcomes of the plan, they're pretty basic. This is a very flexible program that we try to tailor to each individual county, because we know that all of the counties around the region are very, very different. We have a dense urban core, we have more suburban counties, and we have some counties like Paulding County that still have some pretty large rural areas. So you can't necessarily apply the same requirements to every single county. But at the core, we do want, for the first 5 to 10 years of the plan, to be reasonably constrained from a fiscal perspective, that you believe there is a path forward to implement a set of projects that you identify as your highest priority. And that can either be through local, state, or federal sources, or in some cases even private sources. But you have identified what you think is a reasonable program to deliver. But beyond that 5 to 10 year period, we want you to be visionary and aspirational. What would you like that transportation network of the future to be 20, 30 years out in the future, to really support what your objectives and your goals are for the county? So regardless of the projects that are ultimately identified, we want to make sure that that goes through a robust community and stakeholder engagement process, that these have been well vetted, there's support not only at the public level, but also with elected officials, business leaders, everybody else, that the projects that have been identified are the best possible ones. We want to knit together the regional facilities, things like State Route 6, make sure that anything that GDOT has planned on that corridor is syncing in with any sort of those off-system ancillary improvements that you might identify. And at the end of the day, we would like for the county to officially adopt the plan, and also for each of the constituent municipalities to adopt them at their level as well. There are 10 required core elements that we ask of any CTP. The first 5 on that list, pretty much what you would expect to see, nothing surprising there. Maintaining what we already have, the state of good repair, looking at your roadway network, looking at any transit needs, active transportation, bicycle and pedestrian movements, and then freight and goods, how you deal with trucks, things like that. The other 5 may be a little bit not unique, but maybe don't come quite to mind when you think of what would go into a transportation plan. Human services transportation is looking at your disabled and elderly needs and how they get around the county, things like paratransit, dial-a-ride type services. Transportation demand management, that looks at how you can reduce demand on the network through telecommuting programs or carpooling services, things like that, flexible work schedules. ITS and technology, I think everybody's aware of how rapidly the world is changing and the impact that technology is having on that. So investigating, what is the future of connected vehicles and interconnected signal systems, even things like Uber and Lyft, how that fits into the services that your residents have available to them. System resiliency, emergency preparedness, that looks at particularly extreme weather events, when you have floods that may wash out a bridge, or how you deal with a snow and ice event, how you can still continue to function and recover from those events. And lastly, system performance monitoring and reporting. This is taking on increasing emphasis at the federal level, and it should be, that's entirely appropriate, making sure that we are getting the best possible return on the investment that we can. So looking at performance measures, setting targets, and measuring how well you're moving towards achieving those targets. Some additional work scope elements that some jurisdictions have taken advantage of, and I'll just focus on one: sub-area and corridor analysis. Some counties maybe have a lot of at-grade rail crossings, and they want to look at emergency vehicle access over those rail lines when a train comes through. Or maybe there's a particular roadway where you have several intersections where you have a big crash history, and you want to do a little bit more of a more intensive level of analysis and start identifying some specific improvements and scoping out what those improvements might look like. So we really do try to tailor the end products of the program. So this is my last slide, and it's pretty dense, but just wanted to show you the overall flow of the process, and we're way up there in the top left corner in that second box. So I'm here today to begin the conversation. That's one that you'll continue to have with George about whether the county feels that it's ready to go ahead and do an update to that 2015 plan. Once we have talked with all of the counties that are on our 2020 update list, we'll then submit a funding contract to GDOT, and we'll secure those funds on your behalf. So concurrent with that being approved through the GDOT process, we would then begin negotiating a sub-grant agreement with the county. And then once that's underway, then we would work with you to develop a request for proposals for consultant services. And the county would be responsible for the procurement process, doing the proposals, negotiating those contracts, managing the consultant. So it really is your process once all of that sort of core contracting is in place. On the work scope side of the slide, it's a pretty basic work program that you would associate with any planning study. So you have your project management activities, things like your stakeholder committees, your project management committees, and an engagement process that occurs throughout the entire study. You inventory what you have out there, you look at the data, you analyze, you assess it, you develop recommendations, and you put in a documentation and you approve it at the end. It's not rocket science, but those are the basic tasks. You do see a note up there about ARC's level of involvement. We really do feel like we want the county and its cities to own the process. So because we are sort of the stewards of the federal funds that flow to it, there are certain oversight requirements that we do have to follow, but quite honestly, they're pretty minimal. Just making sure that we're looking at, the RFP, that we're advised of when meetings are occurring, that we have the opportunity to participate in those meetings. But beyond that, it really is your process. We take a hands-off approach. Unless you want us there, for any reason as a resource to present information, to do any sort of supplemental analysis, we can certainly help on that. But for the most part, it's you and your consultant that own the study. So with that, I will conclude my presentation, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Just going to confirm that George and Ann, don't y'all go to most of the ARC meetings? So we have representation there. I go to the TAQC, Transportation Air Quality, once a month. How does the, with a county that has SPLOST like we do, how does that integrate with the comprehensive plan and the funding in that slide you showed before?
The work program slide? Usually the way that it works is you have an existing SPLOST, so there are projects that are already on your work program that you're in the process of delivering. So that would obviously be a key sort of set in stone piece of that initial 5 to 10 year fiscally constrained program. What a lot of counties do though is they use these updates to determine what is the next SPLOST. Is there a set of projects that we may want to put out to the voters in a future referendum? And it really serves as that sort of technical analysis that backs up what may go to the voters in the future.
Any questions? So much appreciate you taking time to be here.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Now, this gentleman's not on the invited guest list. Oh, by the way, I forgot to introduce our Sheriff Gullidge, an elected official. Thank you, Gary, for being here. We have a new man in the room that I'm excited about, Mr. Michael Hughes. Mike, would you stand up? Michael is going to be our Economic Development Organization CEO, and I'm proud of Sandy Caker and Commissioner Stover for being on that board that helped select him. There are, 5 or 6 other members on that board, so he was closely scrutinized and comes to us with a wealth of information, experience, and if you have anything on your heart you want to say this morning, you're more than welcome to do it.
Thank you, Chairman. Carmichael, I appreciate it. I'm excited about this new opportunity. I come to you from the county to the east of you. Cobb County, I've been there for about 25 years, serving as their Economic Development Director there. Retired recently, and I'm excited about this new opportunity here with Paulding County and looking forward to being part of the team.
Thank you, sir. Under bid awards, let me also just add, before we get to bid awards, Michael's sitting beside Stacy, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, the president, the directors, one of those terms. And I'm excited for us to not only unify as a board here on the panel, but for the boards to unify together. So Terry Tibbetts, who's sitting to the left of Stacy, reported last month, and I believe next meeting in 2 weeks, Stacy will report on the chamber, and then Michael, I think you're after that. And then we also add the IBA CEO, Robert Kraus. So we can just keep better knowledge on this board of what's going on all the other boards. So we're going to work harder on that and get closer together and be a stronger force together. Under bid awards, number 1 is award the purchase of a utility tractor to the lowest bidder, Cobb County Tractor, in the amount of $59,917. This item is for the Department of Transportation, is being funded through our general funds. Ms. Pollard.
Good morning. This is a budgeted item. We received 3 bids, and we're recommending award to the lowest bid, $59,917, to Cobb County Tractor. And this replaces a tractor that was stolen last year, so there is a little bit of insurance proceeds that'll be applied towards this.
Anybody got any questions on the tractor? All right. Number 2 is to award the purchase of 2 cargo vans to the lowest bidder, Hardy Family Ford, in the amount of $50,429 each. These vans are for the Animal Control Department and are being funded through SPLOST.
This was also included in the budget. State contract pricing, as you know, that's a statewide bid that's issued, was in the amount of $50,432, and Family Ford has agreed to sell those vans to us for $50,429 a piece, and there'll be 2 of those.
Do those have to be modified for use as animal control?
They do. They have some in the back, some cargo space in the back that's modifications.
So we'll contract that out to get those modifications done.
Yes, sir.
All right, number 3 is award the purchase of shelving for the detention center, the lowest bidder, American Specialties, in the amount of $65,222.85. And the shelving will be funded through the jail proceeds.
This is one of the final FF&E items for the jail, and to reduce the cost, I believe they're going to install this themselves, and they've recommended award to the lowest bid, American Specialties, in the amount of $65,222.85.
And I applaud the SO for using inmate labor to save that money. Any other comments, questions? Number 4 is award the purchase of audiovisual equipment for the courthouse to W.H. Platts Company in the amount of $400,000, and this equipment will be funded through the general funds, located in Post 2. And we've got Ms. Pollard and Frank Baker and Allison Bryant.
This project was discussed during the budget, but we didn't have amounts during the budget, so it was kind of left without a total, but we knew that it was coming through this year. And we're using a co-op program similar to state contracting, so it's been bid out through that co-op. It's actually called the U.S. Educational Technology Purchasing Alliance, and we are we have letters from the judges requesting this additional information, and I think Frank has more information maybe from the judges and the need for that audiovisual equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can tell you from serving in that court for a while before I came over here, that system's been failing for some time. And 2 things come to mind this morning, and that's duct tape and Band-Aids. And I want to thank, I think Will's back there, Will Lyons, our IT director. I want to thank him for the years of service with me over there, putting things together, and also Allison's here. I appreciate her bearing with us over there. But there definitely is a need when we have our public come in and they're doing business in our court system. They definitely need to be able to present their cases, and the audiovisual connection there is very, very important for them to be able to do that. So it's a long time coming, but it's definitely needed over there.
And along with Director Will Lyons, I think Daniel Rodriguez has played a big part, so I don't know if he's in the room, but I appreciate his work. Any other comments? Number 5 is to award the construction contract for Fire Station 12 to the lowest responsible bidder, Bain Development Group, in the amount of $1,539,707. The fire station is funded through SPLOST, and it's in Post 4. Ms. Pollard and Chief Pelfrey.
A couple of weeks ago, we received bids. We had 7 bidders participate. Those bids ranged from $1,539,707 to $1,808,000. And I believe Joey has some representatives from different agencies that have helped assist in reviewing those bids and to give you more about the fire station.
Thanks for being here, Chief.
Thank you. We have representatives from the Bain Development Group are here if you have any questions, as well as Crofton Associates. Got Chris Philhauer and Chuck Rand with Edison Engineering. Been very very helpful with this project, and we're just excited to get it off the ground. This station's been planned for quite a while. Our calls keep increasing. We've run over 16,000 calls last year. Station 1, being the city of Dallas, has the most calls, and this is going to take a big burden off of them. This station's been cut out. We got GIS cut out the territory for us, and there's probably 1,230 homes, I believe, in this area, and about 240 lots that are still going to be built on. So it's well needed. It will back up Station 1, as I said, and also the Yorkville Fire Station, and it puts us close to Poole Elementary. We had over 5 miles from Poole Elementary, and of course the airport's only a couple miles away. So we're very excited, and one of the great things about this fire station is ISO ratings. Y'all know I'm always into this, trying to keep ISO down because that relates to your insurance rates. We have a lot of people that are over 5 miles from a fire station in this area, Mount Olivet and McPherson Church Road and Willow Springs. So this will get a lot of those people within the 5 miles. As long as they're within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant, they should get a reduction from their insurance rates. And we will send something out to them as soon as the station gets built and we get that identified. We'll send postcards out to all these people where they can have insurance companies relook at their rates for them. So I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Chief, do you have an estimated date of completion?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Do we have an estimated date of completion for the?
I believe the
the building?
contract was 210 days, and we're hoping to get started hopefully in March, get it proceed.
I just want to say, I'm really excited to see this happen. I'm within that area. So I really want to thank the past commissioners along with Dave and Ron for moving this along. So, it's a big help. I know over time I don't have county water, but so I don't have a fire hydrant, but there's other ways as far as dry hydrants, I know. So, citizens may not exactly be affected right out of the gate with this, but excited to see, and I'm really thankful. I wish Scott Green was here because we're bidding this out a different way than like the jail and even this building here. I think it's more of a hard bid kind of deal. So I know Scott's done a lot of work on this, so I'm excited to see how it really ends up. So
Yeah, Scott's not feeling well today.
no.
We're glad he's not here.
That's not the only reason.
I did talk to him this morning, so I'm not an eloquent speaker like he is, but I'm doing the best I can. One of the things, too, is the response times. That was one of the big things for us, this reduced response times for fire and medical, which helps citizens tremendously as well. So.
While we've got you up here, prognosis for any additional fire stations through your evaluation of the need?
We do have some areas we're looking at. I've actually been talking to Scott a little bit about that. We have some areas within some busy territories. We've looked several different areas, the backside of Seven Hills in the old Carsville area. It's really growing back there, and we do have some spots over there that are over 5 miles right in the center of Old Carsville. And so we're looking in that area right now, and Scott's helping me with that.
I'll just throw in a thank you to you, Joey. This has been a process to get to this point. As Brian mentioned, the board's been working on this, and you've been working on this, and it's been a lot of effort going into this. So I'm excited. I know you're excited, but I do appreciate the effort that you've put forward in it, and I think it'll be a great thing for the folks out on that side of the county.
Well, I appreciate that. And Scott did do a great job, and Bruce Coyle, engineering with the site prep and all, did a fantastic job. I don't know if he's here, but he's worked very hard on it too and diligent. So, but thank you.
Thank you. Bruce Cole's downtown Atlanta at a meeting. Number 6 is award the horizontal directional drilling of an 8-inch HDPE, which is a high-density polyethylene a water main for culvert replacements along Swan Drive to the Alpha Boring Company with a cost not to exceed $54,032. It's located in Post 3. Ms. Ashmore to report.
As you stated, this is to replace a water main associated with the culvert replacement at on Swan Drive. It's two 300 feet sections of pipe that need to be replaced around around two different culverts. And we've selected an HDPE pipe replacement similar to what we did about a year ago out on I think the upper end of Pumpkin Vine Creek. Most of the horizontal directional drilling companies only do that drill. They'll bore it, they'll pull the pipe through. They don't make the connections. We actually, our best pricing, our most cost-effective pricing is with two local contractors, with Alpha Boring doing the horizontal directional drilling and pulling the HDPE, and Blue contracting, making the connections. So that's 4 connections on either end of the pipes. And so we're coming to you to recommend award of the horizontal directional drilling contract for the HDPE with a cost not to exceed $54,032. And I have to thank our assistant director, who has, Daryl Vaughn, who has championed this and moved this forward so we can be out ahead of the DOT crews.
Ms. Ashmore, I know Paulding County is famous for its rock. How's that addressed? I didn't see anything in the backup material. If we hit rock.
I don't have an answer for you this morning, but I'll get you one before this afternoon.
Okay. Hopefully that won't happen, right? All right, under reports from committees and departments today, we have Ms. Tabitha Pollard for a mid-year review. She's the finance director. She's going to let us know where we are at the halfway point.
That's not mine. Okay. Sorry about that. I believe I put some of these up there for you and somewhere in the back. I don't think I had enough though. So I will put it on the website as soon as we're finished with this, and for those viewing online so they can go back if they miss anything. So we are 58% of the year, or 58% into the year, 7 out of 12 months. And I've taken a look at our revenues and our expenses. So we're going to start first with the general fund, and then we'll quickly go through all of the other funds. I want to be as brief as we can and as thorough as we can. Let's see, let me make that a little bit bigger. Okay, maybe these numbers can be seen from the back. First, we have revenues. With property taxes being due in November, they are at 98%. So that's normal. We should be there. Other taxes, we have received 75%. Those are more consistent. Some of them are received at one time during the year. Like you have an insurance premium tax, that's one time. You have a cable TV franchise tax payment comes in one time. But what I want to talk about today are the taxes that seem to have a little bit of fluctuation. So if we look at the sales tax, or the in blue is the current year sales tax. So as we predicted in the budget last year, our sales tax has increased, continued to increase every month so far this year. And we have no reason to think that will decline. So our revenues will exceed what we had originally projected. Right now, it looks like that projection will be $1.5 million, maybe more, something like that. But we'll see, given with time. Keep in mind, these are a month, so what you see there as received in January, that was actually December sales tax that was paid at the store. And if you use, go by last year, March could possibly see a little bit of a decline. It just depends on the sales and shop Paulding. Title ad valorem tax, that one's a little trickier. This one also is a month in arrears. We have seen increase in October, November, and December. Again, January's was reported to us in January. It's reported to the tax commissioner in December. And we've seen a reduction, or the amount was reduced from 7% to 6.6%. So that's going to reduce some of this increase, as well as there's legislation out there to impact the distribution. So I don't know how that will take away from the county and distribute in other ways if that passes, if what's proposed now passes. So those are the two large tax fluctuations that we have from the budget that should provide more income than what we had originally planned. Overall, our revenues are at 87% of our budgeted amount currently, and this year's at 65 million so far to date, and last year was at 57. Another one I want to show is the intergovernmental. So that 2.7 million, that is primarily LMIG funds. So those aren't budgeted going into the year. They're because we don't know what they'll be. So that will increase your DOT budget. And we're going to talk about a couple of other grant funds that are impacted there as well. Investment income, everything else is pretty much on track, a little bit ahead. To go quickly through, your departments should be around 58%. Now there are a couple of things that aren't included in the original budgets for the departments. One, we had a salary increase. That salary increase was budgeted lump sum. So your departments are going to be a little bit over in salaries, particularly in the small departments. So your finance department, your legislative department, anybody that has only a few people, if they haven't had somebody out for an extended amount of time, they're going to be over budget right now. It's not much, but they're over a little. Overall, we should be about 58%. So scrolling down, elections. Elections is how personnel, and they are, but their operating includes the poll workers, and poll workers have had to go through a lot of training for the new machines. So those are expensed, they're budgeted in operating expenditures, they're expensed through personnel. Drug court, that was one that I wanted to mention. And that, again, some of these grants aren't received at June 1st, or when we're planning the budget. That drug court grant is actually $279,000, and we had budgeted $148,000. So you'll see an increase when we do budget amendments for that amount to cover the grant. And then the mental health court was actually, the grant was awarded at $161,782, so it was a little bit higher than what we had. Board of Equalization, obviously their terms are, their season's up, so they're nearing total completion. One of the others, I'm going to show you the good, bad, and the ugly. Some of the process, things come to my attention that we've done. So recycling's at 78%. There is a grinding agreement that we do. It's actually a landfill expense, not a recycling expense. It's been incurred here, but it should be landfill. What they do is they pile brush, then they grind that brush down 4 times a year, and they'll spread it over the landfill to assist with the cover over time. And it reduces the amount of, it makes it go further. So you can pile more when it's ground. Everything else seems to be pretty much on track. When you get down towards the end, so we are currently, our total expenditures are at 50% of our budget. And you have to keep in mind, though, your original budget was expenditures are 76. I'm trying to keep my cursor so that it's easy to follow. 76.9 was the original budget, and we had about $10 million come in from last year that were obligations but had not been expended yet. So that's going to increase your budget to $85 million, and we've currently spent $42.9 million, which is about 50%. This time last year, we had spent $34 million, which was 47% of the budgeted amount. So we are in line. We should use a little bit of fund balance, but hopefully some of those revenues will help to reduce that amount of fund balance that we will use this year. Do you have any questions about the general fund?
Sergeant Henson, could you go ahead and pass out the test? You won't be able to get out of the room until you...
Sorry. Fire tax, pretty much the same thing. I mean, taxes, they've come in where should be about 58%. They're currently at 53%, 54%. The next page is debt service. We have our debt payments are made in August and they're made in February. So this time last year, we had them recorded here so that the amount was $11.6 million. This year I have 3.9. The debt's the same, so it's about $11.6 million, and you'll see that on the next update for February. Water and sewer. So we have some increased revenue for water and sewer. We also have some increased expenses for water and sewer. Every year you have an increase that comes to us from Cobb Marietta. It makes the cost of water purchase go up. You have an increase to the rate, which makes your revenues increase. That is so that at the end of the day, you have a requirement to to charge the customers to be able to pay your expenses and your debt service at 110%. So the amount of debt that we pay out is about $10.6 million currently for the water system. Your operating income, it currently is at $5.2 million. So you're on track, but again, we have to carefully watch the water and sewer expenses, and we can't give away the service, because we have to, if we don't collect it and you don't make the amount of money to be able to service the debt at 110%, then we have to reevaluate what we're doing, because it's a requirement. You pledged to the bondholders that you would charge the fee to collect at least a minimum amount of 110% of the debt payments for the year. Landfill, we look very similar to last year. We have some operating expenses that increased this year, and that is primarily to, to the disposal contract. So it's transfer station. We're transferring out of there. And this year's and last year's, currently the disposal is about $60,000, $60,000 to $70,000 a month. And the income, that's only for disposal. That doesn't count your salaries and the price of getting it through the landfill or through the transfer station. And we're bringing in about 87. So it's, as it looks right now, the general fund will need to put in some amount of money, and we generally put in $200,000 every year. This year, when we took the amount out for the construction, I took it all out, and so we'll probably have to put back the $200,000, and hopefully that'll be enough to cover it. And that covers what I have. So do y'all have any questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. We know where you work.
Okay.
All right, very pleased today to also have a representative from Comprehensive Program Services, Ms. Amy Tizencheck, along with Eric Johnson. Glad to have you here, Eric, for a jail update, and we are getting close.
Good morning. Yes, we are. I am happy to report that the inside of the building is finally on its home stretch. Okay. So yes, when you look at the outside of the building, what you'll see is a lot of the landscaping now going in. Hardscape is finally coming to shape. The inside of the building is looking great. Again, we are in the home stretch of really the whole process. I think we are, I know the sheriff's office is very excited to be at this point. It's been a lot of hard work on their side, but we are, yes, happy to say that we are almost there. As far as where we're at with the budget, to date, in February, we are just a little bit over 72 million in committed money. We have purchased about, I would say about 96% of the FF&E at this point. So we are really down to the last few items for that. Construction, we are on track as far as budget. Projected budget for construction remains unchanged from the last update at 63.2. There has been a little bit of upcharge or increase in FF&E just from some of the final items that we've encountered that we need to purchase for the facility. Contingency, where we're at, we are right around 172,000 on that. There's a few items that are included in the contractor's tracking, which we do not approve, so there's still some things that we are working out with them. For furniture, fixtures, and equipment, the original budget was $3 million. We are projecting that just over $3 million. We're about almost 53,000, 54,000 over, which I think for a building this size, I think we're in good shape. Obviously, the last few items that we're purchasing, we're being very mindful on what is actually needed. Obviously, if we can get that, that 54,000 down, we certainly aim to try to do that. But yeah, as far as we purchasing, again, most of the big ticket items are behind us. Things that we've already purchased, the bigger dollar items are the furniture, shelving, network equipment, computers, monitors, communication cabling, a lot of the equipment for crime lab and evidence equipment, interview room recording system, jail radio system, and several other miscellaneous items, such as dental chair and that mechanical equipment associated, and a body cooler, which was the first one I've ever purchased. So that was quite interesting to have conversations with the vendors about that. Progress, visitation building, the finishes are going in right now. Housing and support, final painting, flooring. We're really getting ready to prep the whole area for punch, which is when the architects, engineers, owner goes through the building, mark up anything that they feel is deficient or which needs to be complete before they move in. Site work, the binder course is about 70% complete. Again, hardscape, landscape, and the site finishing is in progress. And then the perimeter site management fence is underway as well. And then throughout the whole entire facility, the FF&E is being installed. A couple of progress photos. On the interior, dental equipment, the dental chair, and the associated mechanical equipment. The kitchen equipment is now all in. That includes all of your cooking equipment, as well as all the serving equipment and all of the racks as well. The fitness workout room equipment is now in and ready to go. Flooring is installed throughout pretty much all the entire facility. The floors, the concrete floors, are in the process of being sealed at this point. Shelving is installed. Pass-through evidence lockers have been installed. Miscellaneous millwork throughout the whole facility has been installed. And as far as schedule, again, we're at the point where we're getting kind of the last couple percent finished up in order to really go through, do the punch walk, which again allows the owner and everyone else to come in, put their eyes on the building, and note any items that they don't feel are up to par. The engineers and architects come in and they do the same list. Obviously, it's a lot more detailed what they're looking for, as opposed to what the owner and users would come up on the list. 100% inspections are all anticipated March 4th. Security electronics, in a facility like this is really one of the most critical items to make sure that we get completed and the sheriff's office properly trained. That security electronic equipment is to be completed on the 27th, and then training for the sheriff's office will follow. So we're looking at a construction completion of mid-March, and then we're looking at the sheriff's office being able to move in mid to late April. And that's it. Any questions?
Wow. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Tisenchek, for that good report.
Thank you.
Look forward to cutting a ribbon. Under public participation on agenda items, we have Mr. Ronald McClung, who's going to speak on new business item number 11. And he's actually grew up around Sooty, Paulding County. Mr. McClung, did you want to speak today, sir? If you ever want to take somebody out to lunch and learn a lot about Paulding County.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I never thought I would ever get old until I got old. I never thought I'd see the day when there wouldn't be a cotton gin in Paulding County. I'm a charter member of the Paulding Historical Society. I helped set up the museum out here, put a lot of hard work in it, and we wrote the heritage of Paulding County. I was involved in writing that book. I don't know if y'all have one, but there may still be a few available. And when I was a child, we had a farm, a row crop farm. We didn't just grow timber and such stuff. We planted cotton and produce and anything else to make a living. And there was a cotton gin here in Sooty where we brought our cotton to get it ginned. And that was a thrill of my life back in those days, riding that mule wagon to the gin and getting the cotton ginned. And we could have went to Hiram, but our mules wouldn't cross the railroad track. So we had to come up to Sooty to get a cotton ginned. And Mr. Aubrey Hart, Tyree Hart, and Pickle Lawson run the gin when I could remember. And there was Bethany Church, Mount Zion Church, and a little further out was Pine Ridge. And say a little more here. Back then, when everybody was farming, they had revival every year after they got the cotton crops laid by and all in July and August. And I remember Mount Zion out there where we went to revival. Mr. Tilden Gray was the biggest cotton farmer around at that time, and old timer. And they'd have their meetings at the revival, and they'd call on Mr. Gray to pray. And he'd get out on his knees and pray till he was sweating and hair rise. But those days have stuck with me all these years, and maybe that's the reason I'm still in Paulding County. But some of the historical people, Miss Redmond and Johnny Lester and Miss Lattermilk, we thought about a long time ago seeing if we could get the Sooty community on the map and registered and all, but we come to the conclusion we'd be just wasting our time. We didn't think would it be ignored, but finally come the time when Mr. Baker and Mr. Carmichael agreed to do this, and I want to thank you for your efforts, and there's some more things around Paulding that the old people would appreciate if we could ever get around to getting it together. And that's about all I can say. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. McClung, so much. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention his other half, who I found out so involved in B. McClung. Hold up your hand, B. Was very influential in education, in the changes and growth of education in the county, and actually had influence over several of my children. So thank you.
One other thing, sir. I wrote a book on my own family, and I was the youngest child of 16 children, and they're all dead. I'm the youngest one living. But it's good times with great people. It's 350 pages of a lot of names, a lot of pictures, a lot of things. If you ever run across one, it'd be good to read.
We're going to put a few of those in the lobby in there. People can check out or something. Under the consent agenda is several items. Number 7 is discuss action authorize the chairman to approve the amendment to the development agreement between Paulding County and Costco Wholesale. And number 8 is to approve request for the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Affairs, that position, and to adopt the corresponding job classification. And number 9 is declare items listed as surplus and approve their disposal through action or trade. The department that this unit comes from is Environmental Unit number 354, a 2001 Ford Ranger. I'm supposed to say the serial number, which is 1FTYR10D31TA 72098. Would any of the commissioners like to place any of those consent agenda items on regular business? Hearing none, old business we have none, and new business number 10 is discuss action to adopt Resolution 20-05, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Paulding County, Georgia, recognizing 9/11 telecommunication officers as the first responders, or as first responders in Paulding County, Georgia, and for other purposes. Mr. Mumford is available.
Yes, sir.
And also the county attorney, Jason Phillips.
Morning.
Morning.
I'll make it short because I think the resolution speaks for itself, and I believe the chairman is going to read that, so we know what the resolution says. But it's a big day for us. This is an effort that is taking place at the federal level and is working its way down to the local and state levels to recognize 911 telecommunicators as first responders. And it passed the House and the Senate, I think, in Washington this year, and we'll see where it goes from there. But about a month ago, Representative Gullett introduced a House bill at the House of Representatives at the state level that made this recognition. And so we're now doing it at a local level, which probably has more meaning for us than even the state level and the national recognition. But basically what it does is it's not saying that we do the same job as the other first responders that respond to the scene, but we do an equally critical job as the first responders that go out on the scene. Paulding will be the first county, I'm almost positive, the first county or the first municipal government to make this recognition in Georgia. There's other states that have done it and other counties and localities that have done it across the United States, but I'm pretty sure we're the first in Georgia. And I hope that we set an example for some of the other counties and municipalities that run PSAPs to recognize the critical nature and the performance of their telecommunicators. We've always referred to ourselves as like the first responders because 99% of the calls that the police and the fire department and EMS respond to, they're touched by one or more of our telecommunicators. And if you go back to, I hate to show our age, but Mr. Baker and I have sat in that seat at the beginning of our careers 30 plus years ago. And at the time, they could put us in there and we would fill in for the telecommunicators while they went to lunch, or if you were a rookie, you would sit in and do the job while you were waiting to get into the academy or whatever. We can't do that anymore. We can't bring people in and have them sit in because the job is just too complex. It takes us 9 to 12 months to train someone completely to be a telecommunicator these days. I know that we have some folks in attendance here from the 911 Center, if you guys want to stand up. They can do the job. I wouldn't be able to sit down and do their job that they do today. So, and I encourage you. Frank's story is really funny if you ever get a chance to listen to his when he had to step into those shoes, and mine's equally as funny back in the day. So, but anyway, I appreciate you guys recognizing us. It's very important for us at the local level to recognize our folks, and it's a big step forward for 911. So.
Thank you, David. Resolution number 20-05, State of Georgia, County of Paulding, whereas 911 telecommunications officers are part of the critical infrastructure of the public safety system and are trained and certified as communications officers pursuant to the Georgia Peace Officers Standards and Training Act. Whereas telecommunications officers play a critical role in emergency response as the first line of communications for persons needing law enforcement, fire, medical response. Whereas telecommunications officers are a lifeline of law enforcement, fire, and medical responders in the field. Whereas telecommunications officers deal with stressful situations, the need to make split-second decisions which affect the safety and well-being of both public and field responders. Whereas information gathered and relayed by telecommunications officers can mean the difference between life and death for callers and field responders. Whereas first responders means a public safety employee whose duties include responding rapidly to an emergency or accident to provide assistance. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of Paulding County, Georgia, that 9/11 telecommunications officers are designated as first responders in Paulding County, Georgia, and shall be recognized as such in county policy and procedural considerations regarding first responders. So be it. Thank you. Thank you. New business number 11, discuss action to adopt resolution 20-06 to recognize the Sooty community and authorize signage being placed on Villarica Highway, Hiram Sooty Road, and Scoggins Road as a radius of approximately 3,500 feet from the center of the intersection of these roadways. And implementation shall be subject to final Georgia Department of Transportation approval, since all roadways are under their jurisdiction. This is actually in 3 posts we found out, 1, 2, and 3. And County Administrator, Mr. Frank Baker, has a little more to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McClung, I appreciate you being here. I'm just going to, he's eloquently said everything about it. I'll just do the fine tuning on it. But he came in, I guess it was sometime maybe late fall, and we started the discussion about it. I want to go ahead and shout out to Ann Littman and tell her thank you for allowing Chris Robinson and Mark Long to work with me on this project. Last year, there was another designation, so being the history person that I am, I'm always excited to see these things happen. Back in the 1890s, there was a post office at the intersection, a U.S. post office at the intersection of in the northeastern corner of what is the present day intersection of Villarica Highway at Hiram Sooty and Scoggins Roads. As Mr. McClung has already stated, there was a cotton gin there, and there was also a general store at that intersection. So with the research that we've done, the historical documents that we've reviewed, and also the maps that we reviewed, we want to present today and ask the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution and to recognize the Sooty community this afternoon at the Board of Commissioners meeting. The map that's depicted right now shows the present day area, and as the chairman had mentioned when he introduced the item, the center of that is that intersection that we just talked about. This goes out 3,500 in a 3,500 feet radius, and there would be signage put on each of those highways pursuant to also the approval of GDOT, and we'll get Mr. Jones to assist with that. Hopefully, shouldn't be a problem with that. But the first recognition would need to come from the Board of Commissioners. The signage would just say entering the Sooty community. So with that, I'll take any questions that the board may have. And I think this has been another great initiative by Frank, Baker Street. We did one on Crowville, and this is part of the history of the county. And I've lived here now 35 years, and it's a great county and has a great history, doesn't it?
You know, years ago, I remember even riding around with my uncle and going in all these houses, and it kind of spurred me in the late 80s, early 90s as I become a technician, and I would go in them. You would, one time a day, you would actually run into somebody like Mr. McClung. And it was so funny because the gas company paid me to talk to that man for about an hour that day, and it was just hard to get away from him. But it was great. I mean, over the years now, it's changed, of course, and you know, it's we got so many new people that you don't run into some of those same people. But I just remember standing on those porches and people that had stories just like Mr. McClung, and I'm always thankful to see stuff like this because I believe we need to remember our heritage and where we've come from.
Thanks, Chuck. New business number 12 is discuss action to approve the request for a law clerk position for juvenile court. Mr. Baker to present.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. This is another court item that we've been taking a look at, and Judge Altman's here. I'm going to ask her if she'd like to speak on behalf of this item. Just a little background. From my experiences with the courts, I can tell you that one of the most important tools that a judge has is a law clerk. And the law clerk is so invaluable. He or she is able to assist the judge with a number of things, helping write orders, doing legal research. Because if the judge has to do all those things, it takes away from their ability to have what we call bench time, time on the bench, and also other administrative functions that they have. So there's a lot involved with this, but this is something that we've been working on and talking about for quite some time, and I'm glad that we're able to present this today for y'all to consider this afternoon. And I just asked Judge Altman if you had any words.
I'm happy to answer any questions. I do want to say that I really do believe that this will promote the efficiency, facilitate and promote the efficiency of the court, particularly with the orders and the legal research. It's a number of complicated and overlying issues, and we're very aware that any interaction that we have with our children and family, that especially particularly in our abuse and neglect cases, it forever alters the course of this child's life and of this family. So maintaining that efficiency and clarity of the proceedings is a very high value for us. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I thank you for your consideration.
Any questions? Well, we look forward to hearing good results from having extra manpower, woman power in there. Okay, that's the conclusion of regular business. It's not so much that I'm crazy about Valentine's Day, but I'm pretty sure when I was out wandering around that there was no audio. And this boy, if it comes up, because I texted Jeff and he said that he would play it. He received his voice lessons from our very own Commissioner Hart, who's going to sing this song to Julie. Please play. Short and sweet. All right.
I'm sure I can't improve on that.
Okay, let's see here. Any comments from any board members before we talk about going into executive session? I know Mr. Jones was going to announce the closure of a road. Maybe not.
Well, I thought you were going to announce it because
I don't know which one it is.
I sent you the information last week, but I'll have to go from memory now. But during the last flooding that happened last Thursday, Gore Lakes Road was washed away. We had planned to close down that road starting next week to put in head walls. So what this did was moved up the timetable a little bit, added about 5 more days of work onto it. So it's going to be closed again, weather permitting, if it stops raining, probably about 20 work days or so. So that's going on right now. I just wanted to inform the board about that.
Any commissioners have anything? I will announce, and I know that Airport Director Terry Tibbetts has seen this movie because it was filmed out at his airport, or our airport. Last Full Measure is playing. It's not in Hiram, but I hope to go see it here in the next few days. So that's my announcement. You got anything? No? Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
We have executive session. I'll make the motion. Do we still have executive session?
Yeah, go ahead with that motion.
I'll make the motion. We go to executive session for pending and potential litigation.
Is there a second?
A second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Stand adjourned to executive session.